started to develop this area in the 1880s as a tent city. A guy by the name of George Chateau from Grand Rapids, Michigan bought Catalina Island in 1887. At that time, there really wasn't anything here. There was some fishermen sleeping in tents on the beach down there. But George Chateau built the first hotel, the original Metropole Hotel, in 1888. And he built that house that I pointed to at the beginning of the tour on the corner, the oldest house in town. That was his house. But this area here, this next block in front of us, was all tents. They're more like a tent cabin. They're like a permanent canvas cabin on a raised wooden platform. And a lot of the lots that exist here now with houses on them are still those original tent lots. When they started selling these lots to people in the early 1900s, a lot of the lots, they just took the tent down and put a house in the same lot that was designed for tents. You notice a lot of these houses, especially on the right side of the street, are very, very small lots with no yards, no room to walk between your house and your neighbor's house. And a single level house in this area is going to be about 800 square feet maximum, even though there's no yard or anything.
What kind of dollars roughly?
We're right close to $1 million for an 800 square foot house here. And when you get 2 levels, it's going to go up from there. So yeah, it's expensive real estate. Now we're turning onto Crescent Avenue once again. We're on the other side of our little town plaza area, and you can see the Green Pier there to our left. We call it the Green Pier. It's officially called the Pleasure Pier. And that's where you can go for water-based activities like our world-famous glass bottom boat tours, parasailing, sport fishing, and scuba diving. Catalina Island is very well known as a boating destination, but also water sports destination. It's a very beautiful water here with a great climate. And scuba diving and snorkeling and sport fishing are very, very popular here.
Still got that barometric lab out here?
The hyperbaric chamber?
Hyperbaric.
Yeah, that's over in Two Harbors. Two Harbors is the resort on the other side of the island. That's a big boating resort, but University of Southern California has a marine institute there, and they're the ones that have the hyperbaric chamber that's used for scuba diving accidents, and also there's a lot of medicinal uses for just general medicine.
What do we got over here? What do we got on the left?
This is a submarine. That's not really a submarine. This is one of our glass bottom boats. This type of glass bottom boat has windows on the side, and you sit down below the water level, and when you're down there, you're looking at all the fish right outside windows, just like looking out this bus window. So that's a new type, or we call it new. Philip Wrigley came up with that design for glass bottom boats, I believe in the 1950s. Traditionally, glass bottom boat has the glass, straight on the bottom of the boat, and you look straight down. That's a little bit better view. But it's interesting to note that glass bottom boats were invented here on Catalina Island. The very first glass bottom boats were right here back in the 1800s. This whole area was very big for abalone fishing, and there was a commercial abalone fisherman that would catch abalone here and sell it to the local restaurants. He had a little rowboat. He'd row around up and down this coast right here and catch the abalone. And to give himself kind of an edge on finding abalone, he came up with the idea of cutting a hole in the bottom of his boat, putting a window in it, so he could look down through the window and find the abalone, so he didn't waste his time jumping off his boat where there weren't any. So people got wind about the fact he had a window in the bottom of his boat, and they wanted to ride around with him. So he'd give people rides and charge them some cash to do that, and then he came up with the idea to go ahead and just make it a tour. And they built larger glass bottom boats. Eventually they had glass bottom boats that were big paddle wheel steamships that would go around here and take people on glass bottom boats. Then later on, quite a few years later, the second glass bottom boats were in Florida, but this is where the first ones were.
Abalone fished out, or
Yeah, the abalone were fished out a long, long time ago, back in the 1980s, I think it was, when they finally shut it down in Southern California, and then just a couple of years ago they shut it down in all of California. So you can't get abalone anywhere now, I don't think, unless maybe extreme Northern California, maybe.
Mendocino, which
Yeah.
is left at all.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a combination of overfishing and also a disease called withering foot disease, which made the abalone weak. They wouldn't hold onto the rocks as strongly as they ordinarily could, and the sea lions and otters and everything else were just popping them off the rocks too easily, and they just got wiped out. Here's Pebbly Beach.